Nitya, you can stop sharing the screen, Nitya. So we'll start.
Yes, madam.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the third and the final session of our first online seminar series organized by Don Bosco College, Keapuram, Department of Management on Research Essentials, a journey through methodologies. Over the past sessions, we have explored the key aspects of research methodology, and today we conclude this insightful journey with an essential topic, review of literature, a philosophical perspective. We are honored to have Dr. Elangovan with us, an expert in the field, to guide us through the thought-provoking discussion. A well-structured literature review is more than just summarizing past studies. It shapes our research foundation, refines our perspective, and enhances academic rigor. Today's session will help us explore the philosophical dimensions that influence this crucial process. Over to you, sir.
Thank you.
And a gentle reminder to mute the mute. Yes, sir, we can start.
Okay. So, good evening, all. Welcome once again to this third session. So, in this session, we are going to look at how to do review of literature. So, when you look at this topic, you may wonder, say, I am already doing review of literature. I'm already a researcher. I know what is review of literature. Because review of literature, is my screens visible, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So, even an undergraduate student or even at schools, the students are asked to do reviews and they are familiar with the review of literature. And when it comes to research or when it comes to PhD program, review of literature is something that is prevalent throughout the entire research journey. And everybody is familiar with the review of literature. So they know how to find out the research article, download the PDF file from various sources, read through the literature. And most of you would have learned preparing an Excel sheet, keeping the track of whatever data I am reading. So have an Excel sheet where author name, the journal name, the article name, and maybe every detail of that research paper, we start building a Excel sheet. And also write a review of literature based on what you have reviewed. Most of us, we do the summary, one paragraph per research paper, like that, we start writing. But actually, the review of literature, what is the purpose of doing that? And how effectively can we do that? What is the different methodologies to use in the review of literature? How do I synthesize the review of literature? How do we present the review of literature? We need to have a fair idea. That is why I have made my presentation as a philosophical perspective of review of literature. What does it mean? So we are going to understand from the philosophical perspective, that is ontological and epistemological perspective, how do we do review of literature? So when you are reviewing, there are methods or ways in which you need to do the review. So I will talk about that. What is the ontological way of reviewing the paper? Epistemological way of reviewing the paper. And this is what is going to add to our research and research knowledge and insight. See, one more thing before we start with this, I need to tell you that once you know how to do research, you can learn anything, because research is the process of generating new knowledge. So if you know how to do research, it means that you are an expert in generating the knowledge. It means any new knowledge you will be able to gain by yourself. So many times I used to tell, once you do PhD, further then there is no need to join any program, any certificate, any courses, nothing is required. What you want to learn, you can learn by yourself. My experience, when I finished my PhD, you know that I had two master degrees, one in psychology and one in management. I chose to do PhD in management because these schools are there, opportunities are more. If I do psychology, then only few colleges will have psychology, so my opportunity will be less. So I first chose to finish my management PhD. Once I finished my management PhD, I had an interest in doing a PhD in psychology. So this I expressed it to my PhD supervisor. Immediately he looked at me and he laughed at me and said that you require only one PhD. Because once you complete your PhD, it means that you have learned how to do research. Once you have learned how to do research, further you can learn anything. Therefore, why do you require one more PhD? And he said, if you want to research something on psychology, you know how to do research, you research. And the recognition of your research lies in getting your work published, not in getting PhD. This was the statement of my research guide. And after that, I never looked back. One PhD is enough. And we kept learning. Keep doing research, whatever you want to know, whatever knowledge you want to generate, you keep doing. So, why I'm telling this is, what part of the research process makes us learn any knowledge? That is nothing but literature. What is learning? Review the literature, you learn. So whenever we want to find something, new information, new theory, what do? We download article, we read. As researchers, we know how to analyze that article or understand what is the insight from that article, and we get those knowledge. So literature review or review of literature is not just a process within your research. It is like the process how you learn. You learn by doing a literature. So that is why understanding about this review of literature in a meaningful way will help you to gain new knowledge every time. So once I connect this ontology and epistemology, then you will understand that the review of literature we are currently doing is not helping us to learn anything. It's just become a process within your research. I need to have a section or a chapter in my paper or a thesis called review of literature. For the namesake, I will do the review of literature, put a chapter there. That is what most of the researchers are doing currently. And when do you do review of literature in your research journey? Again, they will say, okay, you will have to do review of literature in the beginning. Start with review of literature. How many literatures to do? So we set some numbers. If it is undergraduate program, you do at least 25 literatures. If it is a postgraduate program, you do at least 50 to 100 literatures. Earlier we had MPhil program. If it is MPhil program, you do at least 100 literatures. For a PhD program, 200 to 250. We set numbers for all these things. See, these are all not correct. So how much literatures to do? What kind of literatures to do? That we will understand once we understand the ontology and the epistemology of the review of literature. And when do we do review of literature? Within researches, from the beginning to the end, we keep doing the review of literature. Literature review is the way we find answer to all the questions that you have, including methodology questions. For example, I'll tell you, everybody knows that reliability test, Cranbach alpha. What is the threshold of Cranbach alpha? 0.7. That also everybody knows. So if the reliability test Cranbach alpha is above 0.7, good. We have reliability. But my question is, what do we do if the reliability is less than 0.7? Should I stop my research? Should I throw away my research? What if it is 0.6? What if it is 0.5? What if it is 0.4? Or even what if the Cranbach alpha is 0.3? What should I do? See, I was trying to find answer from a lot of experts. They could not answer this question. The previous question which I had, I tried to find out from the experts. No one could answer it. What helped me to understand how to use this Cranbach alpha is a literature review on Cranbach alpha. I started doing a review of literature on Cranbach alpha only. Then I understood what is Cranbach alpha, what does it indicate, what is the threshold, why is that threshold, what does it mean if it is less, how do I handle my research if my Cranbach alpha is less. Every answer came out through this literature. So now, even with 0.3, I can finish my research. So that's a different story. So what I'm trying to say is, if we understand the ontological and epistemological perspective of literature review, that is going to help us in a different way of learning as well as doing research. So let me get into the philosophy of review of literature. So this we saw yesterday's session itself. What is ontology? So ontology is a branch of metaphysics. Metaphysics is branch of the philosophy. So this ontology talks about the nature of the being, that is characteristics of the objects that exist in this world, as well as the categories of being. So how they are categorized and how they are related. So it means that we are dividing the knowledge into categories and we call them as domain. See, domain means similar or connected knowledge categorized into one area, that is called as the domain. So ontology talks about what is there inside the domain and as well as where is the boundary of the domain so that we can understand the other domain. So this is what we discussed yesterday. But now we will talk about can you mute the participants?
Yes, sir. Done, sir. So can you unmute? Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yeah, done.
Perfect.
Thank you. So how I'm going to apply this ontology into the review of literature. So first we will understand why do we consider ontology? Why consider ontology when we are doing research? See, the first thing is ontology helps us to update the knowledge. What is the current knowledge? See, if ontology is not there, then we will be stuck with the old knowledge and the old knowledge will prevail. For example, our previous knowledge is earth is flat. So you see the pictures, how we conceptualize earth as some flat object. If the ontology is not there, we will never think about earth as a round object. So what is ontology doing is helping us to stop reinventing the wheel. You will now understand why we are doing review of literature is to find out what is the existing knowledge and how I can add to that. If we don't thoroughly do the review of literature, what will happen? We will only reinvent the wheel saying that I am the first person to find this. No one else has found this. There could be knowledge already existing. So it means that I am not thoroughly analyzing the knowledge and we are trapped into the reinventing of the wheel. So therefore, doing review of literature saves me from doing the same thing that is already done. So how do I apply to the ROL? How ontology is applied to the ROL? This picture will tell you. What is this? This is kind of evolution of light. Earlier, it was candle, then light bulb, the incandescent bulb, then CFL bulb. Today it is LED bulbs. See the concept, what I'm trying to say here is the concept of bulb. Today, if I say bulb or light, it is LED. Our incandescent light is no more there. People don't use it. So, at today's context, what does this term means? I'll give a better example. You take this term computer. See, 50 years back, what was computer? Or 70, 80 years back, what was computer? So when we talk about Charles Babbage, what is computer is a wooden machine. It's all with wheels. And if you rotate the wheels, it will do some calculations. So it is called as analytical engine, and that is considered to be the computer. See, in those days, 70, 80 years, if you say computer, computer means an wooden machine. Then came the electronics, the vacuum tubes. So those days, a computer means a big building, a large building with all vacuum tubes. And if you run that, you will be able to do some computation. After a while, what happened? Computer means a size of a bureau or a cabinet, alamari. That was the computer. We call it as a mainframe or a computer, which is bigger than an alamari. 1985, computer was available on the desk. We call it as desktop. Then what happened? Computer became foldable, portable. We call it as laptop. Today, where is the computer? Computer is in your pocket. Your mobile phone is the computer, which is far better than my first laptop. So I bought my first laptop, my first computer in 1992, and my first laptop in 2007. Today's mobile phone is more powerful than the computers and laptops earlier existed. So today's mobile phone is called SoC, system on chip. There is only a small chip that is inside your mobile phone, which does all the job, that is so small, and that is the computer today. So this term computer has different understanding at different point of time. That is what this picture is also explained. You can even take the example of leadership. This leadership concept has been changing over the time. Talk about the TP leadership. Then we talked about transactional leadership. Then we talked about transformational leadership. Then we spoke about servant leadership. So this leadership concepts gets emerging. So what does the ontological exercise means? We are trying to understand the beginning of the concept and the current state of the concept. This is what we'll be doing in review of literature. When we start working on a keyword or a concept, what we'll have to do is we'll have to find out who coined this term or the concept. And further, how this concept changed over the time. The definition will change. And what is the current understanding about the concept? The term employee engagement or employee commitment. If you really do a review of literature, you will understand that this employee engagement and employee commitment are being interchangeably used. Employee commitment is same as employee engagement. You will understand this only when you are able to do the review of literature and do the ontological exercise. So this is very simple ontological exercise. The next one is this ontology helps you to even understand the concept. Because the meaning of the concept or the understanding of the concept can happen only when the concept is connected with its domain. So what you're seeing on the left side, the concept should be within the domain to understand. See, I'll give you examples. How same concept can be there in different domains. And to understand, you need to connect it with the domain, only then you will understand. What is this? Virus. What is virus? See, this term virus is there in multiple domains. For example, it is there in the life science, and it is also there in computers, information system. See, if I connect this term into life science, virus is the smallest living thing in the world. But this term, if it is connected to computer science, virus means a malicious program. But the word is the same, but I understand the word only when I connect it to the right domain. Otherwise, the meaning is different. I'll give one more concept. A cell. Cell has different meaning in different domain. In life science, as I told you, a cell means the smallest unit of the living being, an animal cell or a plant cell. When it comes to physics, a cell means one that stores energy or battery cell. When it comes to sociology, cell means a jail. When it comes to technology, cell means cellular technology. In manufacturing, there is a technique called cellular manufacturing. It means that it's a kind of surrounded machines. One single operator will operate all the machines. That's called cellular manufacturing. That is under manufacturing. So it means that the term, the meaning is understood only by connecting it to a domain. So it means by doing review of literature, we are trying to understand the concept by connecting it to a domain and expanding the domain and trying to make more understanding of the concept. So that is what we do by doing what is called as a theory mapping. Each theory is connected and we need to map this. So I ask my scholars when they are doing review of literature to first list all the theories and map it. Come out with a kind of a map which shows the connection between theories. See, I can give an example here, though there is the kind of example there on cognitive theory. I'll give you one more popular theory which most of us use, that is called as a TAM theory, technology acceptance model. Most of the researchers would come across this theory of technology acceptance. What is the origin of this theory? This theory starts with what is called as theory of reasoned action, which was developed in 1980s. Theory of reasoned action. Followed by that, this theory was modified into theory of planned behavior. Theory of planned behavior. From the theory of planned behavior, they came out with this technology acceptance model. This technology acceptance model has taken turns, developed, changed. So we call it as TAM model. So TAM model became TAM 2 model. So TAM 2, so second version of the model. Then TAM 2 model again got developed into what is called as UAT model. Unified Technology Acceptance Model. And further, dual technology models. The changes, the evolution of the theory that is happening. So as a researcher, we need to find out what is the beginning and what is the current state of the concept as well as the theory and try to map it. So this is called as, what you're seeing on the screen is called as the theory map. Theory map. So from the theory map, then move on to what is called as the concept map. So the key concept is taken, and with that, we try to connect various concepts. We try to connect various concepts and understand what concepts are connected with the concept that I am researching. See, many of us just stop focusing only on our keyword and never move beyond that. That is not going to give us good picture. So therefore, we need to start exploring around your concept also. So concept mapping you can do. So once we do the concept mapping, we can still try to understand what are the antecedents, what are the consequences, what variable comes first, what variable comes next, what are the intervening variables. So by doing the review of literature and listing them, we understand the arrangement of the concepts. See, some concept can come only after one concept because that is the sequence. For example, in TAM model, the technology acceptance model, the outcome or the dependent variable is intention. Intention to adopt. Intention. Intention is preceded by attitude. So before somebody plans to use something, in their minds, attitude is formed. Before attitude, certain factors form the attitude. So therefore, the sequence is attitude leads to intention, intention leads to behavior. This is the order of the variable. This is understood by doing review of literature, theory mapping, concept mapping. Only then we understand this order. So this helps us to understand what is the antecedent variable and what is the consequence variable. And if a researcher reverses that, we can find it out. So sometimes some scholars come and present intention followed by attitude. then attitude leads to behavior, then clearly say that we will say that this is wrong. This model or your proposition or your hypothesis is wrong because this variable cannot come before this variable. That is what is the reality converted into a theory and what theory says. So the ontological exercise clearly tells us what is the connection between the concepts as well as what is the sequence or order of these concepts. So further it shows, I'm showing you some models which helps us to understand what leads to what, the antecedents and consequences. So these are some example models that we come across. So you can see independent variable, moderating variable, dependent variable, moderating variable. So this review or this kind of analysis is the ontological exercise of the review of literature. So what does it do? What do we understand from this picture? We see one tree and the forest. See, let us say that this yellow tree is our concept, our key area or key concept. Lot of researchers only focus on that yellow tree and leave it. But what I am saying is, ontological perspective calls for the researchers to understand what is around it. Understand the domain. The forest is the domain. Within that, where is your concept? How is your concept connected with other concepts? This understanding or this mapping is important. This is what is called as the ontological exercise of review of literature. Now I will move on to epistemological exercise of review of literature. So in the last session, yesterday's session, we understood what is epistemology. Epistemology is knowledge about knowledge. It's again the branch of philosophy, and it talks about what is knowledge, how is knowledge acquired, to what extent is it possible for a given subject or entity to be known. Moreover, epistemology talks about the truth, belief, and the justification. It means that it talks about what is the amount of truth in a knowledge. So how do I connect this to the review of literature? I think I have spoken multiple times, but still I'll connect it here. See, we know that when we do review of literature, we come across different types of articles, different kind of sources of knowledge. You see letters nowadays, letters are also popular. Letter to the editor has become a publication now, indexed in Scopus also. Letters are there. Opinion articles. Book reviews. A lot of people write book reviews. Then we have conference papers. Data paper. Now that is also popular after data science has come. There are journals called Data in Brief. A journal only publishes data. So data papers are there. Clinical trials are there. Literature review papers, There are plenty of varieties of review papers. That is again connected with our presentation when we talk about what are the different ways of writing a literature review. Similar thing also goes into publication. There are publication of review articles, which is called bibliometric papers, bibliometric articles. Then we have what is called as systematic literature review papers. Then we have what is called as annotated bibliography papers. Then we have comments. So these are all types of review of literature articles. Then we have technical reports. We have case studies. And we have research papers. The empirical paper or research papers, quantitative research papers. All these are there. Academic journals have several type of articles. So, whatever we read from this, how do we take it? How do we take it? We need to first assess the amount of truth in it. So that's why I've shown you what is called as a truth meter. Find out the truth in it. So each type of paper has different levels of truth in it. I explained it last session. An experimental paper has more truth. A survey or a quantitative paper has a next level of truth. Then we have the qualitative papers, which uses rigorous qualitative analysis. See, nowadays there are techniques of qualitative analysis. QDAS, QAD, qualitative QDA, qualitative data analysis. There are softwares available, NVivo, MaxQDA, DDoS. There are a lot of softwares available for qualitative analysis. So when you use some tool for qualitative analysis, that also is giving a lot of evidence or truth. Then we have a simple word analysis, text analysis. That comes at the next level. Then within that, case studies, interview methods, they will have. Then comes comments, reviews. All those things are lower on their truth. So while reading the paper, we are trying to assess what is the method that was used to write this paper. So that will tell what is the amount of truth in it. So when you arrange your literature review, please arrange it according to the level of truth so that you can use the right terms to describe the concept. See, when I'm referring to a conceptual paper, I will say authors XYZ proposed. So why I'm saying proposed? They have just a concept. They have not validated it. They have not verified it. Authors ABC examined. Or I can say authors XYZ confirm, found, argue. So these are different terms I can use while writing a review of literature, and each one refers to that type of paper. So epistemology looks at the authenticity of the knowledge. See, one more way the epistemology is used while doing review of literature. That is credibility of the journal. See, don't read articles from every journal. The quality of the journal matters because it is a testimony of the truth. A peer-reviewed journal. Peer-reviewed journal means the truth is verified, justified. Then I can believe. Unpeer-reviewed papers, don't believe because it is not verified. So journals that has good process of the review process, try to read papers from those journals. So that is why we insist when scholars come, we say, try to read papers from Scopus, because Scopus demonstrates the quality. Because a journal to get indexed in a Scopus is very difficult. They'll have to prove that they are doing the process diligently, and more people are reading and citations are there. So it means that a lot of people accept and quote the paper, and therefore the truth is validated multiple times by so many people. So we always say, try to find out an article which has more citations. It means that more people have read, more people have agreed, more people have used it. That is what is going to demonstrate the epistemology of the paper. So epistemology in the review of literature insists us on selecting the papers carefully, finding out the truth, arranging them in the order. Therefore, you are able to refer them properly with proper terms. That is what is epistemological exercise. So we are doing this. I hope many of you would be doing this. Your teachers, your supervisors, they would have told you indirectly. So take a highly cited paper, take paper from Scopus, but nobody would have told why. And what is the relevance to the philosophy of research and why it leads to epistemological verification. So keep this in mind. Two things. What is the methodology that is used? Second thing is that an authentic source? These two will mean epistemological exercise. Okay. So that part connects philosophy to the review of literature. I hope you have now clear with the philosophical perspective of review of literature. So now I will move on to certain things, what you know, but I will put it in a different perspective. Review. What is a review? When you read a paper, you say, I am reviewing. What are you really doing? What is the review? So what is a review? Is you're reading a paper, grasping it, then trying to see within that paper, within that knowledge, some insight. That is what is review. Not comprehending a paper. For example, you take a paper, write a summary, put it there. That will not make a review of literature. So I will put it in a simple way. This is what is your research paper. This is what is your research paper. It means a research paper has different components. You will have introduction, you will have review of literature, you will have methodology, you will have statistics, you will have tables, you will have figures, you will have discussion, you will have implications. A research paper has different components. So when I read a research paper, what I am doing is I am trying to find out underlying concept. See, different papers talk about the same thing in different ways, but they are all having a basic connect. What is that underlying concept? For example, you look at this image. There are oranges, there are lemon. What is the connect? What is the basic underlying concept of this? These are all citric fruits. So, reading different papers, I'm reading different papers. But I am trying to find out there is a thread within that. There is a connect. That connect I am trying to find out. That is a one process of review of literature. Next process of review of literature is finding similarities. What is the similarity in this? These are all berries. So in a research paper, when I read research paper, what is there similar in each paper? Then what do I find? Differences. See, they may look very close, but there is a difference. There may be same theory being done, same hypothesis being tested, but they are being tested with different statistical tool, or different hypotheses are there. So difference will be there. So find the differences in the papers that you are reading. So if I read 100 papers, even though if it is on the same concept, there will be differences. So once I do this, underlying concept, similarity, and differences, then what do I do? Put them together, synthesize it. I'll talk about what is synthesizing, how do we do synthesizing in next slides. But bring it together, bring everything together. That is what is the review. Not reading one paper and in silos keep reading paper after paper, and each paper writing one paragraph doesn't help. So what you see is mix of 100 papers in one jar. That is what is synthesis. Okay, so same thing is mentioned here. Read, understand, look for different areas of the paper, find the patterns in it, find the similarities in that, find the difference in it, and then synthesize it. This is what is reviewing. What do we review? See, most of us, when we read a paper, we are reading only the concept. So this paper talks about this concept, that paper talks about that concept. So we are only focusing on the concept. But we need to focus on other areas. What are the other areas that we can focus on a research paper is, we learn most from the review of literature and the papers only. See, one is we learn methodology from papers. As I told, we learn new things from review of literature. We also learn how to do research. What are the various methodologies? So the picture on your right says what is a methodology. The BOK talks about the concept. So from a paper, I not only look at the concepts, I also look at the methodologies. I focus on what is the sampling method they have used, what is the instrument they have used, how they have checked the reliability and validity, what are the statistical tools they have used, how they are interpreting. Everything I will understand by doing the review of literature. Then what is the picture down here? It talks about when writing this paper, how did they write the paper? What is the flow? What is the language? What is the style of writing? All those things I can learn from review of literature. See, how to write a research paper, how do I learn? By looking at a research paper. So when you look at the research paper, you will know if you read 100 research papers, then you will find something common in every paper. What is that? There is a title, there is author name and affiliation, there is an abstract, keyword, introduction, review of literature, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, references. Did we observe this when we go through all these papers? Then that is what I am learning. So, review of literature should not just focus on the theories, concepts only. You need to also look at methodologies. Learn methodologies through reviews. And also understand how to write. What is the style of writing? What is the language part of it? That also I will do review. What is this? See, we read a research paper once. Then we write a summary and move to the next paper. What this slide says is, try to read the research paper again and again with a different idea, a different perspective, different eyes. Look at the paper from different eyes. That is what this picture is trying to say. Look at the paper with different eyes. So it means that first time when I am reading, I am focusing on what is, which context they are doing, what they are trying to find out. Next time when I read this paper, I am trying to find out how did they collect data, how much data they collect, what statistics they use. Next time when I am looking at this paper, what are the previous literatures they used, whom they are citing or quoting. Next time when I read the paper, I am looking at what is the number of words they have used, word count. Is it a lengthy paper? Is it a short paper? Are they following standard structure? So these aspects. Every time I read the paper with different eyes and then extract. So what do I do? On the left side is my research paper. Left side is my research paper. Each time I am pulling out one thread of it. Each time I am pulling one thread of it so that I'll get different information from it. I'm getting different information from it. I pull out the theory thread. I pull out the concept thread. I pull out the methodology thread. I pull out the reference thread. I pull out the writing style thread. I pull out the assumptions of statistics and things like that. So I'm extracting from the research paper. I'm trying to extract so many things. So that's what I have put it here. By doing a review of literature, we understand the structure of the paper. See, I will tell you, there are a lot of research papers available on what is the flow of the introduction chapter. What is the flow of introduction chapter? Somebody has done a research. What is the way people present the discussion chapter? What is the way people write the conclusion? All this is researched and are available as research papers. So you may also find out the flow of writing introduction chapter. There is a model called CARS model, CARS, CARS model, which is given by Swalls, one author called Swalls. He gives a way . CARS means creating a research space. See, all these things comes out of research. See, I even quote some papers where they have researched acknowledgements in the PhD thesis. What is the order of the acknowledgement? Who are being acknowledged? What is the length of the acknowledgement section in each thesis? There is one research paper. See, likewise, when we do a review, it gives us learning about so many areas. Writing style, third person, first person, which it tends to use, past tense or present tense. What kind of vocabulary they are using in an academic paper, a novel. So those things we can understand while doing the review of literature. As you do the review of literature, you also learn these things. So I hope you all know this. This is called academic phrase bank, which says what kind of phrases are used in different parts of your writing. See, when you want to state the purpose of the current research, need for the research, what are the words you will use? The specific objective of the study, an objective of this study, this thesis will examine, this study sets out to investigate, this dissertation seeks to explain. Like that phrases which is being used by researchers, we try to learn when we are doing the review of literature. So putting that together, okay, what do we do is, first we search for the article, then we validate whether this article is good to read. As I told you, what is the source, what is the methodology. Then try to connect it with your work. How is this literature relevant? Categorize them. Then summarize. Then evaluate difference, similarity, the underlying concept. Then put it together, that is synthesizes, so that it gives you a clear picture of what is existing and what is the gap. So this is the process of reviewing or doing a review of literature. So what do we read? So I told you, when we do review of literature, what kind of articles do we do? So this I think you all know. What is primary literature, what is secondary literature, and what is tertiary literature. See, again, please understand from the epistemological perspective, what is the authenticity of secondary literature, what is the authenticity of primary literature, and what is the authenticity of the tertiary literature. See, secondary literature is a summary or synthesis of the primary literature. So it means it gives certain information in a capsule. But again, you should be careful. You need to understand whether the author of the secondary literature synthesized the primary literature properly or not. See, secondary literature, example articles are literature review articles, review papers. I told you, review paper. So when I read a review paper, I need to check what is the source of that review, how many years the author has taken, and how he has synthesized. That I need to check. So whatever you read, I will tell you, don't trust it as it is. Don't believe it as it is. Always ask this question. Is this information authentic. What I am reading is well validated. So, knowledge source, information, and the various sources. So, this is often a question by scholars or many people. How many literatures to do it? I told you, no, so we set a number 25, 50, 100, 200, 250, 300. We set a number. That is absolutely wrong. See, how many literatures to read? You need to read papers or articles of different kind and put it together. See, that can be 100 or 1,000. That is determined by the concept and the kind of availability of the paper. See, the ontological perspective of how many literatures to read says you need to read the seminal paper. That is the beginning of the concept. And you need to read the papers over the time, at least 5 years gap, to see how the concept is emerging or changing. And you need to read papers in the recent years, past 2 years or 5 years, to understand what is the current knowledge. What is the current knowledge? That also you need to check. So, when you're reading the paper, you need to read papers, old papers, where the concept begins, concept is introduced. Then you need to read recent papers and few intermediate papers in between. Then you also need to read popular articles. What is popular article? The articles in your area which has more citations. So if you arrange your articles as per the citation count, you will find out which paper is being read by many people and cited. Popular articles. Not only that, cover the entire gourmet by doing a quick review. What is quick review? Thousands of articles in 1 hour you can browse. See, Google Scholar, when we do Google Scholar search, number of O's will come. And each page, some 20 articles will be there. See, scan through them. Scan through them, through the number of O's you keep going, so that you get a kind of a width of the papers that is available. Just reading the title alone can give you kind of an information. Quick review. Again, what kind of paper to read is, see, papers that are directly connected to your study. Your variables, your theory, that is your research puzzle, that you need to read. And you should not stop there. You also need to read related studies, something connected with that. And also general studies in your field. For example, one of my scholars is doing a research on brand differentiation and brand distinctiveness. But the scholar is reading about anything that is connected with brand. So the broad understanding of the concept and also the narrow understanding of the concept, everything we'll have to read. So try to expand your reading around your concept. Again, depending on the work, see, I have this problem. Lot of scholars refer to journal articles and come to me and say that I'm doing a similar research, and they propose something very similar to that journal paper. In a journal paper, you will see 3 or 4 variables or something like that, or 1 or 2 hypotheses. They think that is enough for a PhD work. See, what is the understanding? Journal papers, the articles are just a part of the larger work. See, when somebody does a PhD work, they convert their PhD work into multiple papers. So if there are 3 or 4 objectives, then they convert that into 3 or 4 papers. Our scholars reading that one paper and think that that is enough for one PhD work. That is wrong. The journal articles are selective work. Dissertation or thesis have more content. So you know the size of social science thesis, 300 pages, 400 pages. Research article is just 30 page, 40 page, 20 page. So does this make the thesis? No. So therefore, what to review, what to read, you need to have a spread. See, read these literature analysis or review papers so that you get a comprehensive idea about the concept and theories. Meantime, read the research papers for an in-depth but narrow area. Also read thesis and dissertations. See, I have seen many PhD scholars, till they start writing their PhD thesis, then I have never seen a thesis, or never read a thesis, or never reviewed a thesis. 3 years they will work and they will start writing the thesis, but they have not seen a thesis. This is not correct. So, when you do your research work, reading thesis, reading research papers, reading literature review papers, everything is required. So you need to have a mix of all these type of sources. So when I am reviewing, what techniques do we use? See, nowadays, a lot of technology also has come into picture. So what are the types of reviews? See, just reviewing anything that you download, that is a traditional review. You read, you keep on reading, either you summarize or you consolidate your reading and write on your own the narrative technique. That is a basic review of literature that we all do. But same thing can be done systematically. So we call it as SLR, systematic literature review, where we take a keyword, we try to search for the paper with the keyword in a particular database, not everywhere, particular database, and that too for a particular year, 10 years, and get all the papers and then review and write a paper. That is systematic review. Next comes meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is, there are 2 ways of doing that. One is take the bibliometric information and run statistics. That is one way of doing the peripheral way. Another one is data within each paper you take, convert that into a data set, analyze on that and write a paper. For example, what is the R square value that the researchers got in their research? So then what I will do is hundreds of studies I will take from the same area. Only take the R square value and create a data set. Then run statistics and find out what is the range of R square values that the researchers have got. That kind of study is called meta-analysis. So I will show you in detail. This is what is called as a systematic literature review. Take one keyword and start searching the paper. And once you get the number of papers, then what you do is you start filtering it. Stage by stage, you filter it. And finally, you freeze certain papers. Then read those papers in detail and come out with the information. So this is called a systematic literature review. So there are different frameworks within this. There is a method called as prism technique, prisma technique, which is used for systematic literature review. Most of the authors, they use that. What is meta-analysis? I told you meta-analysis. So data within each paper is collected. Data within each paper is collected and that is statistically tested. So you will see that odds ratio is one statistical test like a chi-square test. You get this result. That data from some 22 authors, 22 papers has been taken out and that data has been analyzed. Odds ratio is kind of a chi-square ratio. From 22 research papers, they have just taken that value and they have analyzed this. This is kind of a meta-analysis. So what is the importance of meta-analysis? See, this meta-analysis is usually done in medical areas, medical research, where they try to find out the repeatability or confirm the results across various research. So it adds more authenticity to the information in the research paper. So medical field, there will be a lot of meta-analysis being done. So this is again about the traditional reviews and the systematic reviews. So systematic review will have a clear search strategy. As I told you, which year to which year, which database, everything will be taken. We will locate all the relevant published and unpublished studies. So limit the biases by removing or filtering it. Then have an eligibility criteria for reviewing the papers. Then finally do the review. But this traditional review, randomly we'll do. We read every paper, any year, any source, read, summarize, synthesize. So systematic reviews are better than traditional reviews because the authenticity will be more. So again, when doing review of literature, how do you read? In what order you can read, and what order you can arrange them? Chronological order. See, ontologically, you will require the review of literature to be chronological, because I need to know when does this concept begin and what is the evolution of it. Again, thematically, I'll have to arrange. Again, ontological. This domain, this variable, this concept, this theory. That also is required. That is thematic analysis. Also, epistemological analysis is methodological. So, in different approaches, what are the results that is emerging? That will lead to epistemological exercise. So, all the different review of literatures, different method is connected with the philosophy. Ontological exercise as well as epistemological exercise. So this I showed you. Quick review. Google. Number of O's. Keep going. So by further doing a quick review, it is also called a scoping review. So while doing a quick review, you will also categorize those reviews. So like policy, concepts, evidences, you divide them. Conceptual papers, empirical papers, like that. When you do quick review, you can divide them. It's called a scoping review. So then we try to connect these reviews. Okay. So each type of review, as I told you, the epistemological exercise here, the authenticity, when I read a review paper, which type of review paper gives me more confidence? Which type of review paper gives me more confidence is full systematic review, because they have systematically filtered the paper, read the details of the paper, and then written the systematic review. See, the rapid evidence assessment, you are only searching for the evidence. For example, how many people got R square value less than 0.7? I want to find out. That is also adds more confidence to me. Rapid evidence assessment. Then comes a quick scoping review. See, the entire width I am finding out and then try to categorize them. Quick scoping review, that gives a limited confidence. This narrative review has a less confidence. So, when I read a review of literature, which is a narrative review of literature, I cannot ensure whether they have read quality papers, what source they have used, or all those papers are done with rigorous methodology. Whether these papers are read by people and cited, I do not know. So a simple narrative review paper, when I read, gives me only little confidence. So this we need to keep in mind. This is again an epistemological exercise of the review. Next, we'll talk about the tools for the review of literature. Nowadays, earlier doing review of literature was tedious. Researchers spend a lot of time doing their reviews. But nowadays, with the technology, use of technology, it has become very easy. So the foremost tool that we use in doing review of literature, as I told in the beginning, is the Excel sheet. Everybody is familiar with this. Take one research paper, read, then create this Excel sheet, name of the author, year, title, book editor, book title, journal, keywords used, objective, conclusion, methodology. You can keep extending this columns and start collecting the information. This is an usual way of using the technology in the review of literature. Next is, in my presentation, I told you that we need to develop models, that is framework or the conceptual models, theoretical model, conceptual model, we need to develop. In that case, there are plenty of tools, mapping tools that is available. So mind map, you would have heard about mind map. There are mind mapping softwares available. So use any of the mind mapping software and start developing the map so that the map can keep growing as you do the review of literature, and map can give you a lot of information in your process. Next is the index cards. The older technique, but still this works. See, I read plenty of research, but what is important, what is not important, how do I keep track of it? So we can have such kind of index cards where we note down, and we can easily search these papers. When physical form of papers are there, it becomes easier for us to keep track of all the papers that we are. But this also has been simplified with the use of these kind of tools. Mendeley. Today I am using Mendeley so extensively because Mendeley helps me in storing my paper, categorizing my paper, and also it helps me in citation. See, citation is one of the biggest trouble for researchers. When we write a paper, when we send to one journal, they will ask, send it in APA format. But after all process, they will reject. Then I'll have to send it to another journal. They will ask for Harvard style. Earlier days, we used to sit and do it manually. It takes a lot of time. But now that is not the case. If we are using Mendeley for citation and referencing, by one single click of a button, your citation and referencing style changes. But the actual purpose of the Mendeley is keep the literatures, categorize them, search, index, everything you can do with the Mendeley. This still I appreciate the older technique. When I was doing my PhD, whatever literatures I read, the important literatures, I used to take print out, and I categorize them concept wise or methodology wise. I used to categorize them, and I have bound them and made it into a reference book. So in my collection, if you see, there will be a lot of bound books of the literature which I used for my research, which are all categorized and classified. And when I am using physical copies, this is also a wonderful tool to do review of literature. Highlighters and sticky notes. My popular tool that every time I use for review of literature. See, something interesting I'll tell you. I have made a conference presentation on how to use sticky notes and highlighters for research. Specifically for research, how do we use sticky note and how do we use highlighters in different ways in our research process. So that's what you will see. Tags or sticky notes by marking the pages, or using sticky notes to visualize, write the theory or the concepts in each sticky note, put it on the wall, try to rearrange and make the concept map better. As I told you, this you can read my paper and the presentation on the sticky notes for research in my website worldofresearch.com. There is a PPT available, wonderful, colorful PPT, which talks about how to use sticky notes and highlighters for research purpose. Writing, coming to how to write the literature reviews. So again, different styles of writing are there depending on domain also. In science and engineering, you need to write chronologically. In social science, you need to write thematically or sometimes methodology wise. In some literatures, they go with a kind of narrative, or you can even have a argumentative type of literature review writing where you take each literature and start criticizing that literature. What is the drawback in those literature? What is the gap in the literature? So it means that there are different ways of writing review of literature. So when you write a review of literature, you will have an introduction, then you will have a scope of the literature, and also arrange it in a specific order. So when I ask scholars to write the review of literature chapter, I ask them to divide them into three broad areas. First one is, what is the current knowledge? Thematically or conceptually, they will analyze, theory wise, they will analyze, and then they will present what is the current knowledge. The second part of the literature review is gap. What is the research gap? Then third part of the literature review is how I am going to address that gap, what concept I am going to bring in there, and what is the research that is done on those areas. Research that is particularly connected to my work, distantly related papers, close to what I am doing, background, narrow categories, and categories related to my research. This is the structure of how I would write my literature review. So, what is the current knowledge? What is the gap? Then how do I address that gap? Or how do I address gap is nothing but developing the hypothesis or the propositions. Make an argument and say, I propose this hypothesis. So now coming to what is synthesis. So I was talking to you about synthesis. So a lot of people, we do only summary. But effective research can happen only when you synthesize. So synthesis is like what we read, try to arrange in different ways and try to see the connections. Arrange in a sequence, arrange in an order, arrange in a hierarchy, arrange with connections. You try to do this. This is what is synthesized. So synthesized review of literature is a very good, effective literature, not the summary. Because in summary, you're just summarizing what the author has done, but you never criticize, you never comment. And there is no thread that is coming out. There is no connection between each of those summaries that you are giving. That may not happen. So summary style is a poor style of writing review of literature. So this is how we synthesize. We take concept one. What are the articles that is connected with my concept, and what is the contradicting articles? What are the supporting articles? And what are the articles that support the supporting material? So seeing the tree as well as the forest. This is what I told you. So again, as I told you, literature review structure. So you can arrange chronologically, you can arrange methodologically, you can arrange thematically, or you can arrange theoretically. Set of theories, I can group them. So this would be the last slide, which talks about 5 C's of literature review. See, very important aspect of literature review is the source. What is it? Citing. Citation and referencing becomes a very important aspect of literature. Lot of us forget that. We write but never quote or never cite, and that leads to plagiarism, leads to problems. So we need to first, whatever we read, we need to have a tag of it, from which source it is come. Next, compare, contrast, critique, connect. This we saw in our various slides. Okay. So the citation, when I say citation, you need to be aware of the various styles. We look at APA style, MLA style, Chicago style, Harvard style. There's so many styles. You should be familiar with that. Otherwise, your entire work will not be acceptable. Okay, APA, MLA. So every subject area has a kind of a style guide. So the style guide, using a style guide for writing a review of literature becomes very, very important. Engineering, IEEE, indexing of books, style guide for business writing, AMA, Management Association, Medical Association, AIP style. Okay, so that ends my presentation. I will show you one of the work done by my scholar, which will showcase the recent technology use. See, as I told you, bibliometric studies, that is becoming more and more popular. The bibliometric study is using technology. There are softwares or libraries or tools that can be used in R programming or what you call Python programming. You can use and do a very technical analysis of your research. So I will show you one example where one of my scholar has done this. I hope you are able to see the screen. I will just increase this. You're able to see this, sir? Okay. So you see,
Yes.
search strategy. So what is the keyword? Where did I search? How did I search? That is there. And that information is extracted as a database. So this is possible with the Scopus. So when you go to Scopus, you give a keyword. It will give you the bibliometric information. Who is author, which year of publication, volume number, issue number, institution, affiliation, keywords, all those things it will take. And you can extract thousands of articles into one Excel sheet. And if I apply this bibliometric software, it will give me this kind of information. How the concepts are connected. You can see sustainable consumption, connected to fast fashion. It is connected to purchase intention. An image of connections is produced. And it can even give you the thematic maps. So it can cluster and find out what is their relationship and give some thematic maps like this. And you can see the colorful ways of visualizing the literature. So you see, the scholar has found at least 30 theories in the area of the research, has found 30 theories and also categorized those 30 theories into some 3 areas. And this is context in which the theories were used. Then what is the method that was used in this research? You see, qualitative, quantitative, SEM, regression, social network analysis, visual content, so everything on whatever variable he is using. Then antecedents and consequences. What are the antecedents used? What are the outcomes that was produced? All these are visually seen. So this gives a clear visual or picture of the entire literature. So these are some modern techniques. So I'm not going deep into it, just to tell you that this is also a way of doing the review of literature. So I think I can stop here so that we can take some questions.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
A literature review serves as a foundational component in scholarly research. I think so. You have made it such that your detailed presentation today has made us so easy about, the whole idea of review of literature scares most of the people because of the research gap, the number of research papers we have to take. How do we start about it? But today you had given us a clean detail why we have to do a review of literature and what are the different ways of doing it also. Thank you so much, sir. So,
Thank you.
there's a question here. So, what challenges might rise when integrating diverse philosophical perspective into cohesive literature review, and how can that be addressed?
No, diverse philosophical perspective will be addressed by epistemology.
Mhm.
See, I think the person who has asked the question looks at the philosophical perspective in terms of the paradigm. So, qualitative, quantitative, critical theory are different paradigms. When papers I am taking and reviewing them, how do I consider them or how do I categorize them? That is clearly based on the epistemology, because paradigm itself is the combination of ontology and epistemology. So what is the positivism is single truth. A single truth means scientific papers. Subjectiveness or multiple truth means social science areas. So this helps us to understand the kind of philosophical or paradigms in the reviews.
Another question, sir.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
my personal question. So, what do you think about systematic literature review and this philosophical perspective of literature review, sir?
Yeah, actually, the philosophical perspective, the ontology and
Mm.
epistemology becomes more rigorous and evident in SLR and
Mm.
bibliometric studies. See, the connect of the philosophical perspective happens more in these two forms of review of literature rather than the narrative form that we currently do. In narrative form, the connections doesn't come. We fail to do that. But the connections will emerge if we are doing an SLR or a bibliometric study. That's what those images which I showed is really showing the ontology of the entire concept.
We have another question, sir. How can you best use AI tools for literature review? Some instances and learning from your experience, sir.
Yes. So a lot of people started using ChatGPT or the AI tools for writing review of literature. We need to know the limitation and also the how the ChatGPT works and how is that literature produced. See, the ChatGPTs or any generative AI tool is called as LLM models. LLM model means it is predicting the next word. So it keeps on predicting the next word and it makes a sentence. So what ChatGPT does, though it is being trained by a lot of data, what it claims or what it gives me as a literature is an hallucination. It's not true. We need to know the exact source from where it is taking. So when you ask the chat GPT to write a review of literature, even give the citations and references in APA format. A lot of people do that. Leave everything to the chat GPT, even give the reference in APA format. What I have found is these references are also fictitious. Recently, last week, we had a viva of master thesis of MBA executive. The project report came to me. I took one of the reference and put it in Google Scholar. That reference is not available. So finally, all the references were fictitious. So when people use these tools, we need to be very careful with the content that the tool is generating, as well as the sources or references it is giving. We need to be very much conscious about. So today's session has spoken about the ontology and epistemology, which clearly says that what I am reading, what I am understanding has to have validation. A thorough authenticity and validation is required. So even if ChatGPT gives, you need to validate. That is a very simple answer. Whatever generative AI gives, we need to validate. But still, there are many tools specifically for the review of literature. ChatGPT is a very generic tool. We use it for everything. But there are specific tools like SciSpace or Elicit. There are tools which are very specific to literature review, where it can summarize. For example, you load the PPT and ask it to summarize, it will summarize. See, these kind of works has been automated. But don't ask the tool to write the entire review of literature. AI tools are there, but know how to use it, where to use it, what limit to use it, that need to be understood. So that's what about, see, we need to run a separate session on generative AI and review of literature.
Thank you so much, sir. It's
you.
been 2 days of in-depth understanding of a review of literature, let it be review of literature, let it be philosophical understanding of PhD. It's truly in-depth understanding. I think these are the points where we missed out during our PhD journey. And I think, sir, you've given us a full, it's like a coursework we have attended. Feels like a coursework we have attended these 2 days. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Now we have Immaculate Joyce to give the vote of thanks.
The roots of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation for goodness. It is my privilege and honor to propose today's vote of thanks. First and foremost, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our Rector and Director, Dr. Father Wilson, for his invaluable guidance and unwavering support. Thank you, Father. A sincere thank you to our principal, Dr. Father Gio, whose vision and encouragement have been instrumental in shaping such enriching academic initiatives. Thank you, Father. Our deepest gratitude goes to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Ilagovind Sir, for his enlightening session on Research Essential, a journey through methodologies. Your insights have provided us with a deeper understanding of research and their significance in academic excellence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to all the faculty members, organizers, and technical team who worked tirelessly behind the scene to make this online research series a success. Last, a heartfelt thanks to our participants for their enthusiastic engagement and active involvement. Your presence and eagerness to learn have made this session even more meaningful. And the series is not ended here. We will continue the series in the month of June, and we should also keep you posted on the dates. Participants, kindly note the feedback form will be sent in the chat box. Kindly fill by 11 p.m. today. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
We'll end the session, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you.